Today we're going to be reacting to Britain is much safer than the USA.
This will be very interesting. What are the reasons? What can you guess other reasons might be?
Maybe less firearms.
Oh, that does seem like it would be a little bit safer.
Obviously, in the United States, they kind of fearmonger about knife crime in the UK. They act like the knife crime is super high there, even though actually it's higher in the US. And the US also has gun crimes, which the UK obviously doesn't have much of.
So that's a pretty crazy statistic already.
Let's check this out. Here we go.
Is Britain safer than America? Let's jump right in and find out. We're going to start with the mathematics of violence. In 2023, the United States had a homicide rate of approximately 6.3 per 100,000 people. Britain's rate, 1.2 per 100,000.
My gosh, six times.
Yeah, 6 times higher is pretty crazy for homicide rate.
I mean, it's pretty crazy. A lot of times when you look at the United States homicide rate, it's much closer to like South America and like those type of countries.
Means Americans are more than
And then Americans, of course, have the audacity to think that for some reason the US is safer than everywhere else on Earth.
And the best country in the world still.
Yep.
5 times more likely to be murdered than Britons. But here's where it gets really sad. In some American cities, the numbers become almost incomprehensible. St. Louis clocks in at around 65 murders per 100,000 people. New Orleans hits 40 per 100,000. These aren't war zones. They're major American cities with populations in the hundreds of thousands. Compare that to London, a city of nearly 9 million people, which recorded 109 homicides in 2023. If London had St. Louis's murder rates, it would see over 5,800 murders per year. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. Americans are also significantly more likely to be victims of robbery, aggravated assault, and property crimes.
Everyone knows there's so many phone snatchers in London. I saw 5 videos on Facebook of a person on a bike pulling up and snatching someone's phone.
If you go on YouTube and look up London, you are highly likely to run into some YouTube video talking about how dangerous London's become. What's happened to London?
Oh.
And pretending like it's not happening in the US.
We actually made sort of the opposite video of that. Yeah. We went there ourselves to one of what was considered more dangerous areas in London. And if you want to see what we found, you can check that out on our vlog channel, TriFate Lifestyle.
Link in the description below.
The violent crime rate in the US is roughly 4 times higher than in the UK. Even accounting for different reporting methods and definition, the gap is undeniable. And the next place to go, I think, is unavoidable, and that's guns. Britain has some of the strictest gun laws in the world, implemented after the Dunblane massacre in 1996 when a gunman killed 16 children and their teacher at a Scottish primary school. The British
children are getting shot like almost daily in the United States in school. Nobody does anything. The NRA, too much money is flowing through.
The UK took action.
Was swift and comprehensive. A near total ban on handguns, mandatory licensing for rifles and shotguns, and rigorous background checks. The results speak for themselves. Britain sees fewer than 50 gun deaths per year in a population of 67 million. America, with 5 times the population, sees over 40,000 gun deaths annually. That's more than 800 times the rate per capita. American children are 36 times more likely to die from gun violence than British children.
That's scary.
36 times. But here's what Americans often miss. It's not just about mass shootings, though those are horrific enough. It's about the daily gun violence that's become so normalized that most incidents don't even make news. The domestic violence escalated by easy gun access, the road rage incidents that turn deadly, the arguments between neighbors that become homicides. But guns are only part of the story. The deeper difference lies in how these two societies treat their most vulnerable citizens. Britain built a comprehensive welfare state that, while imperfect, provides a basic floor below which people can't fall. Or at least it's...
Sounds like socialism to me. We don't do that in America.
That in Cuba and Venezuela, that failed, so...
If you're poor in America, starve. That's what it's all about.
It's very difficult to fall. Universal healthcare means people don't go bankrupt from medical bills. Council housing means homelessness, while still a problem, doesn't reach American levels. Unemployment benefits, while modest, prevent the complete destitution that drives people to desperate measures. America, by contrast, built a system that prioritizes individual responsibility over collective security. The result is a society with enormous wealth disparities, limited social services, and millions of people living paycheck to paycheck. When people have nothing left to lose, some turn to violence. When mental health treatment is inaccessible or unaffordable, problems fester until they explode. Consider homelessness. London has roughly 11,000 people sleeping rough or in temporary accommodation. Los Angeles County alone has over 75,000 homeless people. The desperation that comes from having no safety net, no health care, no hope of stable housing creates conditions where violence is able to flourish. And many times against these vulnerable populations as well. And here's where American thinking about
When people are starving and they have nowhere else to go, they only have one option, and that's to steal, rob. And I mean, in those type of situations, when things get tense, if the person starts fighting back, boom, one shot.
The system's already so against them that it's basically like the system's committing a crime against them. So the only thing that they can do is commit a crime back. And then, yeah, they have, that's the last resort, is a murder there.
safety is different. The United States incarcerates people at a rate nearly 5 times higher than Britain, yet why is it still more dangerous? America locks up 2.2 million people, more than any other country in the world, including China, which has 4 times the population. Britain incarcerates around 95,000 people in a population 1/5 the size. You'd think all of that imprisonment would make America safer, but it's done the opposite. Mass incarceration has torn apart communities, created cycles of poverty and violence, and made it nearly impossible for ex-offenders to reintegrate into society. When someone gets out of prison in America with no job prospects, no housing options, and a criminal record that bans them from most employment, what exactly do they expect to happen? Britain's approach...
And the way they're treated as criminals in the U.S. is, I don't know how it works in the U.K., but there's like no form of rehabilitation when it comes to the American system, unless if it's to do with drugs, and even that's not accepted very much still.
Yeah.
Approach, while far from perfect as well, focuses more on rehabilitation rather than punishment. Sentences are generally shorter, prison conditions are more humane, and there's greater emphasis on helping offenders reintegrate into society. The result? Lower crime rates. Now, another overlooked factor in the safety divide is mental health treatment. Britain's NHS means that mental health treatment is free at point of use, and there are many flaws with the NHS, and it is not necessarily easy to get treatment on the NHS for mental health. I know many people do have experiences with that. However, there is something there. Someone experiencing a mental health crisis at least has a possibility they can get help without worrying about whether or not they can afford it. In America, mental health treatment is often completely inaccessible due to cost and insurance limitations. The result is predictable. Untreated mental illness leads to substance abuse and sometimes violence. The majority of mass shooters in America have untreated mental health issues. And America often assumes that the solution to crime is more police, harsher sentences, and tougher enforcement. But Britain's experience suggests otherwise. British police are generally less militarized, less likely to use deadly force, and more focused on community policing than their American counterparts. American police kill over 1,000 people per year. British police typically kill fewer than 5. And this is because American policing has been militarized to an extent that would shock most Brits. When people don't trust the police, they don't report crimes, don't cooperate with investigations, and sometimes take justice into their own hands. Britain's approach, while not perfect, maintains higher levels of community trust and cooperation. And perhaps the deepest difference is cultural.
It's an interesting one, though, because more people, especially people with mental health issues, have access to guns in the United States. So the likelihood that they're able to gun down a ton of people is much higher. So in response to that, since getting rid of guns or common sense gun regulation isn't an option, the only option is to give the police more weapons to fight the mentally ill people that have the weapons.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that the most reasonable solution is just not considered because of all the money that's going
Yeah.
on and the whole business side of that and the pride of a lot of American people. But yeah, it's made it so that this pretty bad solution ends up being the one that's actually used.
I mean, people's solution is to give teachers guns
Yeah.
so that they can protect the students from the students that get the guns. Because getting rid of guns or making it harder for people to get guns, not an option in the United States. That's just unfathomable.
Yeah, I mean, if I guess we'll just finish the video.
America has, in many ways, normalized violence in ways that would seem bizarre to most Brits. The glorification of gun culture, the acceptance of police brutality, the entertainment industry's obsession with violence, the political rhetoric that treats opponents as enemies to be destroyed. Britain certainly has its problems with violence, knife crime in some urban areas, a history of football hooliganism, domestic violence, but there's no
Hooliganism.
cultural equivalent to America's gun culture, no comparable glorification of vigilante justice. And that's why Britain is undeniably safer than America, and I say that as an American living in the UK for the past 10 years as well. As always, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.
You know it's not as bad when they have to call it hooliganism instead of an actual like crime like that.
All right. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Goodbye.